All right, and we are live. Hey, Mike, how are you doing?
Doing good. How are you doing?
Doing well. Hello to everyone who are out there watching us live, and anyone that watches us a little bit later after live. My name is Kevin Griffin. I'm one of the organizers for HRDevFest. And real quick, if you're not familiar with HRDevFest, let me just give you a little bit of the 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 story. So let me share my screen. So HRDevFest, it's a one-day developer conference here in the Hampton Roads area.
Good looking dude
Specific.
right there.
Oh, who's that? Eric.
Eric, yeah, man.
Yeah, Eric's a handsome guy.
He's got the beard.
I would almost swing the other way for Eric. I like
Yeah,
him.
I hear he's smart too.
He is
Yeah.
the owner of 8020, a software consultancy here in the area. So now I'm thinking about Eric, and I've completely lost my train of thought. Can't get Eric out of my head.
Eric.
Let's see, HRDevFest. So this is our second year of HRDevFest. It's, again, a one-day developer conference. It's relatively low priced. We're talking like as much as a cheap dinner at the Applebee's or the TGI Fridays. We're dedicated to giving you, the attendee, a great education into different aspects of software development. And we went to Fiji, so there'll be breakfast, there'll be lunch. I am even hearing there's going to be a happy hour at the end of the event. So for the small price of like $25, $30, I'm not sure what our ticket price is set at the moment. It will go up at the end of the month. So if you don't have a ticket now, you have until September 30th to grab a ticket before the price goes up. But set your calendar, November 4th, 2016. We would love to see you there. So our keynoter for HRDevFest last year was Eric. That's why I can't stop thinking about him. But this year, our keynoter is Michael Rollins. So hello, Mike.
Hello, how you doing?
Doing well. So let's start off. If no one knows who Mike Rollins is, give us the bio.
So, former CIA spy, worked for the. Oh, not that part. Sorry.
I've killed only 10 people, I swear.
Yeah, actually, it was just a few people. So I am a principal engineer at Yahoo. I work remotely, which surprises a lot of people because there was all that hullabaloo a long time ago about Yahoo not having remote employees. There are not many of us, but we do exist. I came across with the acquisition of Flurry back in 2014 and have spent the past 5 years focused on mobile engineering, and specifically as an external facing engineer, in the sense that I help our partners integrate our products. I sit down with CEOs and CTOs and tell them about why we're the best idea. I write a lot of best practices documentations. It's kind of a developer relations role combined with a lot of other things. And then internally, I get used a lot to go do special projects and stuff like that. So it's been a great role. It's been a lot of fun, and has greatly broadened my horizons from when I started 5 years ago. I mean, 5 years ago, I was in pretty much front-end web development with a little bit of back-end. And now I am, I don't know, I guess you could call me full stack if you wanted to. But it's been a great ride, that's for sure.
What's your daily stack look like right now? What languages, technologies are working primarily?
So I am very, very finely focused right now on iOS.
Okay.
It was great. I had an intern over the last few months, a guy named Kobe Anderson. He was awesome. He and I have been working to build out our iOS samples so that it's easier for our publishers and other analytics users to just have code that they can drop in, right? So like, if you're an engineer or an engineer, that engineers don't read documentation.
Nope. I scan it
You scan it and you look,
copy.
and you look for the things that are like big and red and highlighted that say don't ever do this, and that's the first thing you do.
Exactly.
And then
Why does it not work?
I don't understand. Documentation is a last resort is basically what I've learned. And now, but if you put code in front of somebody, people will copy your code all day long.
Yep.
And so we've stood up a bunch of new projects on our Flurry GitHub, in order to just basically educate the engineers that are working on the stuff that they're putting into their apps. And so Flurry, and just it's probably worth taking a step back. Flurry, in case you don't know, is the #1 mobile analytics platform in the world. We see something like 1 to 2 billion sessions a day. Wait, I'm sorry, that's about 1 billion devices a day and about 5 to 10 billion sessions a day, if I remember correctly from the last
Wow.
I took. Yeah, that's I mean, and that's honestly, that's a scale that is pretty far and above what a lot of people have ever experienced. And there are some very interesting stories that have come out of that scale. One of which I'll definitely share during the talk. But it's kind of a mind-boggling scale. And then, like, if you think about our storage, it's measured in petabytes. It's not measured in terabytes.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of data, and the challenges associated with managing that and working with that are pretty great. On the flip side of that, you have things like the SDK that goes in the apps. And learning about that has been probably one of the most brutal things I've ever encountered. I gave a talk at RevConf on building bulletproof SDKs. And, one of the things about an SDK, like if you have a web page and somebody screws up the CSS, like you just push a new version of the CSS and everybody hits the reload button. Maybe they've got to clear their cache, but everything's good. If you screw up an SDK, it lives with you forever.
Yeah. And you have to go a major version to make a break and change, and still people complain.
Oh, well, I mean, there are people that just never upgrade apps.
Yeah.
Right. There are people that never put new SDKs into their software. I mean, it really is just a virtually frightening thing to think about a broken SDK.
Yeah.
So that's made me think about software development both of those things have made me think about software development and software engineering in a very different light than I did 5 years ago when I started the job. So.
Well, that sounds great. For those who aren't familiar with RevConf, you're talking about Revolution Conf, which is the parent event to HRDevFest. So if you're interested in Revolution Conf, that's a 2-day event this year, about 500 attendees, and it's June 1st and 2nd, 2017. And I'll put a link in the notes for this show. Michael, I'm expecting to see you there, so
I'll be there.
You've already set your calendar, I know. Well, awesome. Well, since we're talking about HRDevFest, you're talking about this is going to feed into your keynote talk anyway.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about what you're planning on discussing during the keynote.
So, it was really interesting. I've had a talk rolling around in my head for years now, and it's one that I've really, really wanted to give, but it's very emotional for me. It's very raw. And it's also, as I've been thinking about like the actual application of the talk over the past few months, it has been one that I realized could go horribly wrong. So and here's why. Yeah, I know that. I know that, but it's so the name of the talk is Suffering, Rebasing Reality. And the basic premise of the talk is that as a society, we seek to avoid suffering as much as we can. But there's actually something to be said for embracing suffering, because in a lot of cases, suffering changes your perspective very significantly. And when I'm talking about suffering, I'm not talking about, oh man, I've got a splinter. I'm talking about like the stomach flu sweeps through your house for a week.
Mm-hmm.
that is definitely a form of suffering, one which I endured earlier this year. Or it can also be something as big as you've been given the diagnosis of a terminal illness. In my own personal life, my oldest son was diagnosed with leukemia at the age of 2. And that was a 3.5, almost 4-year walk through the lands of suffering, where, we learned a lot about how to survive. And it changed me. It changed me greatly. And so even something as simple as, like, a lot of people, like, when they get put out of their comfort zone, or like some of the folks in Learn to Code, the Learn to Code channel on 757 Dev, they're going through their own form of suffering. They're realizing that they need to change their career, and so they're in the process of learning all of this crazy technology, and that is going to change them. And I'm actually, like, I talk to a lot of people that are in the process of changing their careers, and I'm excited because they are putting in an incredible amount of hard work, and they are going through a form of suffering, and it is changing how they view things. And at the end of the day, I really truly believe that some of the best computer scientists that are going to be out there are going to be people from other industries that have made the jump across, right? Like, a lot of people can go get a comp sci degree. But it's very interesting when you take somebody that has a degree in some kind of, mechanical engineering, and put them into a role as a computer scientist.
Yeah.
That's a different look. Or as a psychologist, and put them into the role of a computer scientist. That's a very interesting thing. But going back to my son's journey, he was the one that was going through the most suffering. But my wife and I, as his parents, I mean, obviously, if any of you have children, that's not a fun thing to watch. And you also, there's no handbook on how to parent a child with leukemia, right? Like,
No.
it's like, I mean, so there are days when I sit down and I take a deep breath and I close my eyes and I think, you know what? It's not cancer. And that statement right there can change my perspective greatly. And it's only because of that former suffering that I'm able to perhaps endure some of the things that I've been through in the past 5 years, right? So I think he's been clear of treatment for 3 years now. So he's doing
That's awesome.
well, doing well. That'll be the special part of the talk.
It's always nice to have a happy ending.
Yeah, it is nice to have a happy ending. That's the part that can go terribly wrong.
Yeah.
There is not always a happy ending. And what do you do when there is no happy ending in sight? Or what do you do when you have to live with it for the rest of your life? So that's kind of what the talk is about. I hope it goes well. I fully intend to bring as much as I can to the plate. But at the end of the day, I just want to inspire people. And there's also a lot to be said about shared suffering. I'll tell a story in the talk. I'm not going to tell it here, about the day that Fleury almost died. And it was a all hands on deck, 24 hours a day for like 5 days as we tore the system apart and put it back together. And we were within hours of losing everything.
Oh, wow.
And that experience galvanized the team. Like that changed us. And as things happen, people, you get acquired, and eventually people go do something else. And it's funny because we always have these going away parties for the old Florians, and we always end up talking about that one time period. Like, it's like, do you guys remember when? And there's, oh yeah, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. And we've still got documents laying around from it. And, so.
That would have been a great Medium post, though. How I killed the #1 mobile app platform in
Oh yeah,
the world, and you would get a whole bunch of hits, and it would be really popular for like 3 days, and
yeah,
then everyone would forget about it.
yeah.
But I'm really glad it didn't die.
I'm
We
glad
probably
to
would
see.
have you here right
Right,
now.
I'm very glad myself. Thank you. So.
Also, well, I am just based off the past couple minutes, I'm looking immensely more forward to the keynote than I was before, and I was already looking really forward to it. Well, cool. Well, let's bring it back around. We talk so much about code. We're both in a public Slack channel where all we talk about is code, code, code. What do you do outside of your day job, the code itself?
Oh, I mean, I crash drones into my head.
Well, I see a drone above your shoulder there. Is that crashed or just permanently mounted?
That one, that's the one that started it all. She is affectionately referred to as the ugly duckling. That is based off the DJI flame wheel frame. And the great thing about the flame wheel frame is that every time it touches the ground, it breaks in half. So I learned through that, I learned quite a bit about flight. I learned quite a bit about electronics. I have since moved on to, and I'll show you this. My plan for tomorrow is to completely rebuild this. So this is my racing quad.
Okay.
Let me pull that up. That'll make it a little bit more. There you go. All right. So here's the top frame, right? You mount a battery right here. You mount a GoPro right here. You've got a little first-person camera right here. Oh, sorry. There you go. Right there. And then you've got your antenna on the back, and then you got some motors. Now these are fun little motors. They've got what's called a 2800 kV rating. What that means is that they spin 2800 RPM per volt applied when they're unloaded. And if you're running, say, a 3-cell battery, that can run at upwards of 12 volts. So that's fast.
Wow.
If you're running a 4-cell battery, you can apply upwards of 14 to 15 volts. So that's an amazing amount of power to throw through something that small. And then this is, here you go. You guys can laugh at my soldering. It's pitiful. I'm really trying hard to get better. But this is what I do. I kind of live, eat, breathe, and sleep these things. And it is a lot of fun. I also have, I think I got about 6 or 7 drones around here. I got a Phantom sitting over there that my wife got me for our anniversary. That's been fun to play with. And then I've got a little tiny one called the Tiny Whoop. It's based off the Blade Inductrix frame that I fly around the house on a regular basis. Oh, and it's probably worth noting that when you're flying these things, you're not flying line of sight, you're flying first person. So you've got a really sexy pair of goggles that you put on.
Wow.
All right, so like it's transmitting off the, remember, so you got that little camera right there. I don't know if you can see it.
Yep, we can.
That little camera goes through that transmitter right there, through that antenna. You got an antenna that you mount to this thing, and then you put these on, and you look like a stud. You look good, let me tell you.
So you stand there, you're wearing the goggles.
Oh yeah.
People think you're doing like VR,
Right.
something.
Yeah.
And you're holding the handset. And the handset, do you have like a decent?
Oh yeah. I mean, if it's actually an assault weapon that doubles as a controller.
There you go.
Like
yeah.
you could fling this at somebody and it would make a dent. You could smack them upside the head if they did anything to you. But what I like to do is tell people, oh yeah, dude, I'm just jacked into the Matrix.
Yeah, you got a lot of power there.
Yeah, so I'm very pleased. I don't even know what half of these buttons do, to be quite honest with you. I haven't flown this one yet. It should be very interesting. But that's what I do in my spare time, which is probably bless my wife. She's put up with it for quite a while.
My wife would say, "How much money did you spend on that?"
And she's never asked that question, and I don't ever want to answer it.
Yeah. I'll just go back to my wife and go, how much do those leggings cost from LuLaRoe?
Yeah, there you go.
And then I'll have to talk to you from the coffee shop because that's the only place I'll be living.
Right, yeah. How'd those leggings cost? Yeah, okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna leave now. Thank you. Love you. Bye, honey.
Can I at least use the car, please?
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
No, I'll get an Uber. That's fine.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. So let's wrap up. We did have one question from the Twitters, and it was specifically about HRDevFest and asking what excites you about HRDevFest.
There's one very specific thing about HRDevFest that excites me. When I went to Flurry 5 years ago, there really was not a developer community around here. This area is very heavily, or has been very heavily, driven by Navy contracts and federal contracts and things like that, which has its own implications and has its own challenges. All of a sudden, was it a year ago now? Kevin Curry said, "Hey, are you in 757 Dev?" And I said, "No." He said, "Well, you need to be there." And all of a sudden, all these people that think and talk like me are all around me. And that was exciting because I didn't even know that you guys were out there. And so now, being given the privilege to come and speak to the people of Hampton Roads, so it's hyper local, right? Like this is really focused on this area. Being able to come and give such something that means so much to me and give it back to them is what I'm excited about, because quite frankly, I've spent a lot of time in Silicon Valley. It's a great place. In terms of heart, you guys are unparalleled, and so to be able to give back, that's what I'd like to do. So
there was a funny story. It was one of Zach Miller's State of the Startup events, and he had a speaker there, and she interacted a lot with Silicon Valley types, and she said they had a conversation with, I think it was like the CEO of Uber, and for some VC funding, and he told her, you would have to move somewhere else because there's no talent in Hampton Roads.
Right.
And I think events like HRDevFest and RevolutionConf show the global world there's just not talent in Hampton Roads. We have the best talent in the world, and I'm really excited to have you and everyone joining us for HRDevFest and then next year for RevolutionConf, because we're just showing the world you don't need to move to Silicon Valley. You need to move to Norfolk or Virginia Beach or Chesapeake. That's where.
I'll tell you what. I've been pitching the Virginia Beach office for Yahoo very hard.
That'd be
We haven't. I haven't managed to secure it yet. But I told my boss one day, I was like, "Hey, just put an office in Virginia Beach. We can staff it. Like this would be great." So
there's a lot of talent here. Yeah. Well, okay. Last question. If someone wanted to talk to you, follow up, or learn more about what you have going on, where do we find Mike Rollins on the internet?
So I am on Twitter as Rollins.io, ROLLINS.io. I am on Instagram as Rollins.io. I suggest right now, if you're interested in keeping up with what I'm doing, you go on to Instagram. I've kind of focused on that a little bit recently due to the fact that Twitter and Facebook are just both kind of filled with hate and political rantings.
Yeah.
I'm in mute mode with them. But you can certainly find me there. I have Rollins.io on YouTube. You can go there and watch me crash a drone into my head, which is an extraordinarily entertaining thing to watch. And yeah, those are probably the best 3 ways to get in touch with me. So.
And also 757 Dev, our Slack channel.
Yes, if you just want to come chat with me, then come to 757 Dev. Probably be forewarned, it is not for the faint of heart to strike up a conversation with me.
I've seen a couple of the conversations. So
there are no rails.
And really our 757 Dev Slack is meant for folks
This
in
area.
the Hampton Roads area, but that doesn't mean we're inclusive. So if someone wants to join and participate, it's invite only. Just let one of us know that you want to join, and we'll get you in there. That's not a problem at all.
All right.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. Mike, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Kevin.
And we are looking immensely forward to hearing your keynote at HRDevFest. And anyone out there that wants to get a ticket, it's hrdevfest.org. And the tickets are cheap. Just set your calendar November 4th, and we'll see you then.
The tickets may be cheap, but the conference is going to be dynamite.
Oh, no, it's a $2,000 value for only $29, $39. It's you get what you pay for and some.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, sir. You have a great day.
All right.